Winchester, a cathedral city in the south of England that feels more like a town in the best possible way. Boasting a pedestrian-only high street, it's no surprise that Winchester has a well-established street music scene. And after being told good things, I decided to go and check it out for myself. Here is how I got on busking in Winchester. Alright then. Welcome to Winchester. Winchester's like a city, but it has more of a town feel. So I have come to Winchester on the recommendation of my good friend Samuel Ashton. I saw him yesterday and we are both playing a festival this weekend, and he recommended I quickly pop over to Winchester because it's not too far from the festival site. This place looks rad. Although I have seen 4 other buskers already and it's not that big of a place. Right now, I kind of wish I knew a bit more about this place because I don't really know where the spots are. But what I might do is just walk back through town and see if anyone has moved. I do wonder if I can go here in front of the cathedral. Samuel Ashton did warn me of spot hoggers. He says that Winchester is notorious for spot hoggers. Spot hogger is somebody that busks in the same place for the entire day or for an extended period of time. I better go through the rules with you so you know that you shouldn't spot hog. So these are the rules for busking in Winchester. The rules for busking in Winchester. The historic city of Winchester sees buskers as providing a colourful and cheerful atmosphere to the city's streets. I like this, Winchester Council. This is some good wording. Like most places I've been, they offer a busker's code. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll notice that Winchester Council don't really offer anything new that we haven't seen before. But I will go through the code with you anyway. The council state, if you are a busker in Winchester city centre, adopt the following code. Keep the volume to a reasonable level. Don't obstruct the flow of pedestrians. Remember, crowds can cause a problem when gathering to listen/watch. I like how there's no action to take here. All you have to do is remember. Move on to another pitch after an hour. One for the spot hoggers to remember. Move on or stop if required to do so by a council or police officer. Don't make use of the street furniture. Avoid sites near public telephone boxes, post boxes or doorways. And contributions must not be solicited. So no begging. Are there buskers that go around telling people to make donations? Please give me your change. Maybe that wouldn't go down too well. This is a very standard list of very reasonable rules. As you're about to see, there were some minor things that did happen to me in Winchester, but nothing worth worrying about. So let me show you how I got on. Spot number 1. When I arrived in Winchester, it was already very busy.
Did you go to school?
I walked down the high street and I must have seen about 4 to 5 other buskers who were already set up and playing. I was struggling to find a spot.
That is comprehend, yet I don't wanna hear it. No, it's more than I accept.
I didn't want to go anywhere that meant I was too close to my fellow street entertainers. And there was also a market going on, which meant the street was even more narrow than it usually is. After wandering around for a little while, I settled on going at the very end of the high street, outside Rick Stein's restaurant. Good old Rick Stein. That would be a funny guest feature for one of these busking videos. I asked the surrounding market stalls if they minded me setting up there, and they were thrilled. All of them tipped me, and one of them even asked if I would do a birthday announcement for one of the others. It immediately felt like a friendly and good vibe. Now I was concerned about how many other buskers I'd already seen. Usually in smaller places, if there's a lot of buskers in one area, I always find donations tend to be a lot lower. Simply because I think people have already tipped one of the other buskers by the time they see you. Or they see so many buskers they don't really know who to tip. Not that it's all about donations and tips. It's just something I've noticed.
Where I belong no more.
But I think I was at an advantage from being at the end of the high street. There were a lot of people entering the road from where I was stood, meaning I was the first busker that they get to see. And this is a tactic I highly recommend if you ever find yourself in a busy place.
No, it's not I said.
Spot 1 was a vibe, I really enjoyed it, and it got the day off to a tremendous start. So I think this is like the main spot here, this memorial, Buttercross Memorial, and it looks like it's free. So I think I'm gonna go here for spot 2, outside the bank that's closed. Spot on, this is the one that Samuel Ashton told me to come to, so hopefully this is a good one. Spot 1 was great, by the way, so let's see how it compares. Spot number 2. Prior to going to Winchester, I'd spoken to my good friend Samuel Ashton, who you should check out after you've watched this video, if you haven't already. He has some experience from busking in Winchester, and he'd recommended to go to Buttercross Monument, as it's probably the main busking spot in the city.
And I was out of my mind, 'cause she shot as well, that was this girl.
So when I walked up the high street and noticed that this pitch was free, I wasted no time and just got set up. At this point, the sun was roaring and I was sweating buckets. But I'm not one for letting the weather stop me. So I just got on with it and sang and played my tunes. The start to this set was a lot slower than the first. Perhaps people had already seen me, or perhaps they'd already tipped and acknowledged another busker, but things did eventually pick up. Then a lady approached me. She was sat having lunch with her friends at the Ivy restaurant in the outside seating, and she asked me if I would mind turning down. This is genuinely the first time I've ever been asked to turn down. Ever. But I took no offense. I smiled, I turned down slightly, and I even moved my amp so it was no longer pointing in the direction of the Ivy. And there were no further consequences. She didn't come back, and no one else seemed to mind.
Holding my hand, shooting a start out together grand. She's pulling me in, she's shading me out. Now I know what love is all about.
I'd spent about an hour and a half playing in the first spot, and I kept this spot to just 1 hour. Other than being told to turn down, it was a vibe again. Lots of smiles, thumbs up, a bit of dancing, a bit of singing. People genuinely seemed to be really appreciating what I was doing. Once I finished playing, I decided I should probably go and fill my water bottle up. There are public toilets and a water bottle filling station in the centre of Winchester. I'll show you the map. I think that's always a good thing to know as a busker when you go to these places. Let's talk about the last 2 spots I just played. Spot 1, just after I filmed my intro sequence and I said, hey, I wish I knew where the busking spots were. A woman clearly overheard me because she came over and said, hey, I'll tell you where the busking spots are. And she proceeded to tell me everywhere you could possibly busk in Winchester, which was rad. But of course, everywhere she told me, I walked to and there was someone there. There was already a busker there. I decided to set up at the bottom end of the high street. I've learned from playing on Brighton Seafront a lot that when there's lots of buskers concentrated in one area, you're always better to be at the end. If you're in between buskers, say you're one of these two, then people have to walk past a busker before they see you, which means you have to like really be putting everything into it in order to get any acknowledgement whatsoever, because they've already seen a busker. So I always think if you go at the end, even if it feels a bit less busy, there's a good chance that there are some people walking past who have yet to see a busker, because you're the first one they're gonna see. And it was awesome, really good spot. I made friends with the market stall people. Gave them, one of them came over, gave me a couple of quid and said, can you shout out our friend's birthday? So I shouted out Erin's birthday. Happy birthday, Erin. I made £39 plus card, plus coppers. Again, I'm just rounding the numbers because I can't be bothered to count the brown coins, the copper coins. Spot 2, I managed to get to the Buttercross Monument. So that's like the main spot of Winchester, according to my fellow buskers. It was rad, it was hot. I was directly in the sun, but it was a really good spot. About halfway through, a lady came over who was sat at the Ivy outside eating, and she said, can you turn down a bit? But to be honest, it didn't bother me. I just turned down a bit. I said, yeah, sure, no worries. Turned my amp to face away from the Ivy, and then there was no further problems. I only did an hour. Probably could have done longer, but it's all good. I don't need to do any longer. In the second spot, I made £33. Plus card. I think I've had 4 card taps, so that's £8.88, £75 basically, which is rad. I'm probably going to do a third spot if I can find a spot. There's still a fair amount of buskers around. The good news is there hasn't been any spot hogging. No spot hoggers here today. Probably because it's so hot. It's too hot to stand in one place. As soon as the sun's on you, it's a workout. So, right, I'm going to eat some lunch. Take a minute, look at this cathedral, and then do one more spot if I can find one.
Well, I heard you crying loud.
Spot 3 and the last one of the day. I set up outside Starbucks on the corner in the middle of the high street.
I'm feeling sorry for you. Well, don't get lonely now.
The guy running the market stall opposite that was selling leather goods immediately gave me a sore stare.
Yeah, so tired, you've been thinking about ditching me.
But I set up and started playing anyway. It was later in the day, maybe 3:30 p.m, and the high street had gotten a little quieter.
When I come around, when I come around,
my energy levels were dwindling a bit. I think the sun had zapped most of it from me, and I definitely wasn't putting as much into this set as I had done in the previous 2, but I was still getting a good vibe from all the passers-by.
I mean, I'll be cute, you know you're right. No time to search you all around.
Few people stopping and filming with their phone, which is always a nice thing to see. Eventually, after about 20-25 minutes, the guy from the market stall came over. And again, I was asked if I would mind turning down a bit. Maybe I'm just too loud for Winchester. Again, I didn't react negatively. I just turned down a bit. And that was that. A few passers-by did comment and say that we don't think you need to turn down and ignore him. But I'm not one to cause a nuisance. I generally think it's better just to acknowledge if you have this kind of thing happen. Do what they say to an extent and just get on with it. But I did appreciate that some passers-by had my back. I'm not sure what happened in this set. Maybe my energy levels, maybe being asked to turn down. But this was the lowest donations I've had in an hour's set for a long, long time. I ended spot 3 with £10.50, which is still rad in the grand scheme of things. And I'd had plenty of good vibes, acknowledgement, Again, singing, dancing, people filming on phones. So I can't complain at all. I was grateful to cap the day off like this.
What is your name? We're walking by, like the fires in the marshes, like the birds up in the tree. They're talking to each other, just like you and me. And I think we found our calling as the rest.
Oh my days. Another exhausting but incredible day. Let me just go through what happened in spot 3 there. So I set up outside Starbucks. This is a spot I'd seen someone earlier in the day playing. Now this spot was sandwiched right in the middle of the high street. So when I was talking about being on the sides, this spot I was sandwiched right in the middle. It wasn't the greatest busk in terms of donations. It was good in terms of acknowledgement. Lots of smiles, lots of happy people. You know, thumbs up. People were definitely enjoying it. The guy who was on the market stall opposite came over and told me to turn down again. So I've had 2 people tell me to turn down. I've never had anyone tell me to turn down before. So that's a first. But maybe I was just too loud. But yeah, I obliged. I just turned down a bit and I said sorry. I said I won't be there that long because it's the end of the day and I'm dead tired. He had no sense of humor. He sat there like this and he stared at me for a good 40 minutes. I played for an hour. It wasn't the greatest donations. It was £10.50 in cash. And in card, I got 6 taps. So £6.66. I've gone through the effort of totaling everything, coppers included, and I have made £97.87. So not a shabby day at all. Winchester reminds me of Brighton. Not in the way it looks or where the way the people are. It reminds me of Brighton because it's ideal for busking in terms of setup. It's a great street, it's pedestrian only. It's quite small, unlike Brighton. But the reason it reminds me of Brighton is because there's an abundance of great buskers, clearly. And everyone is kind of diluting each other because you've got a competition, you know? And it's great, but it's bittersweet because it's sort of like, in these towns or these cities where that's happening, it's freaking awesome to be there. But I think the best thing for those types of places, for like Winchester or Brighton, is to get out on a weekday when it's going to be quieter. I'd be intrigued to come back here on a weekday to see how it'd be. I'm going to hand you over now to future me to round off the video. Winchester! So it narrowly misses the places where I've made £100 plus. Just narrowly. I would be intrigued to see how Winchester is on a weekday. Maybe a slightly quieter day with less buskers. Either way, I highly recommend it as a place to busk. Thank you for watching. Before you like this video, maybe consider subscribing if you haven't already, and maybe you're considering being a true fan and turning the notifications on. Before you do all that, I quickly want to tell you that I am planning to go to Europe in November for a busking road trip. I want to hit as many of the major cities of the European countries as possible in a 3-week window. If there is anywhere you recommend I go, or anywhere you'd like to see me go, or anywhere that you can maybe help me go, then leave a comment below. I make videos every week. They come out on Monday, so be sure to like, subscribe, and notifications on. And I will see you in the next one. Peace, love, and happiness.